afternoon, and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. Every hour of every day, lives are saved through the power of organ donation. An organ donor can help save 8 lives, as well as help many others through tissue donation. Today, we're going to meet Vermonters who know the power of organ donation. Jim Carter is part of the Vermont Volunteers for Organ Donation, and he leads a donation education program in Vermont high school driver education classes. And alongside Jim is Laura Allen. Laura is an organ donor recipient who received a new heart in October of 2008. Thank you so much for being with us. Jim, share with us your interest in organ donation.
Well, I was a long-time public school teacher, and I've always talked about in my social studies class about organ donation, but what really impacted me was when our daughter, Andrea, as a senior at Mount Mansfield High School, was involved in a car crash and was in a coma for 6 days at the Fletcher Allen University of Vermont Medical Center now, and became an organ donor. And so after I retired as a public school teacher after 30 years, I decided to go around to schools talking about the importance of wearing a seatbelt. Andrea did not have a seatbelt on. And this is Andrea here, and she became an organ donor. She donated her corneas, her heart, both her kidneys, and her liver. And so myself and a woman named Melissa Jewett, was a kidney recipient, decided to do some outreach, and we started to go to high schools and primarily driver ed classes, because it was on your license how you felt about being an organ donor. Mm-hmm. So I've done that now for the last 15 years, and I never get tired of doing this. I go all over the state. I've been to every county, except Essex County. I have not done a presentation over in Essex County. But the other 13 counties I've made presentations to.
And Laura, how did the gift of life impact you?
Oh, I'd be dead. So my heart was attacked by a virus in 2003, and I went through all kinds of operations, and I ended up with an artificial heart pump for a period of time, and then I received a donation in October. So it's totally changed my focus and my vision for my life. I think up till then I was happy and life was good, but now I feel far more focused and intense about things that I need to do. I feel like I have a mission, that I'm here for a reason. Mm-hmm. And I don't really know what that is yet, and I hope that someday I'll find out what it is. But I I have a very strong sense of time, and how important time is, and how important relationships are. So my family, my friends, my job, everything is just much more intense. Mm-hmm. and more important.
Do you know anything about your donor?
I do not. I know that it was a woman in her early 30s.
And so, Jim, what is the process of becoming a donor?
Well, the most important thing is to talk to your loved ones about how you feel about that. Have that discussion. When I do these presentations to primarily driver ed classes and some health classes around Vermont, I even go over to New York, is to have that discussion. We're not trying to sell the idea of organ donation, but we did not have that discussion with Andrea. Our family did not. We have 3 other children. So the process is that the first process is to tell your loved ones how you feel about it. How do you feel about being an organ donor? And then through the DMV, the Department of Motor Vehicles, you can sign up to be an organ donor. I have a couple props here I'll show. This was a previous license, and on the back, and a lot of people say, "Oh, I signed my license."
Right, to become an organ donor.
Right. I signed it, and there's 4 options there: one to be a donor, not to be a donor. You can actually specify what you wanted to donate. This is not a first-person consent. It was just what you wanted to have happen.
And what does that mean by first-person consent? Why is that important?
Well, a first-person consent means that you have make that decision. This is just your wishes. The first-person consent. The newer licenses are now by first-person consent. You can see this person, Melissa. She has a heart on her license, and that shows that she is signed up when she got her license. She wishes to be. It's still at the time of possible donation, the organ procurement people, whatever hospital you're in, would absolutely ask your loved ones how you feel. Mm-hmm. But this is a first-person consent. It's down. Your name is down. Melissa's name is down at the Richmond, Virginia, at the United Network of Organ Sharing. That she is a first-person consent. She wishes to be an organ donor. Mm-hmm. But the important thing is talk to your loved ones.
Right, and then check your license and see if it needs to be updated.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you can go online with donatelifevt.org. That will puts you on that first person consent also.
And so what are some of the things that you do, Jim, to raise awareness about this issue?
Well, we have a group called the Transplant Donor Network. We started about, I'd say 13 or 14 years ago with just a group of us. I think there were 3 of us. There was a person from the hospital. There was 3, there was a pancreas kidney recipient. There was a kidney recipient, myself as a donor family member. And we started this group called the Transplant Donor Network. We meet pretty regularly, almost on a monthly basis. We do a lot of outreach stuff. We do a lot of support for people. We do a lot of education. I go around. Laura's been with me many, many times. I made the presentation over 2,000 times around the state of liver recipients going, people waiting for an organ, just to educate people about what it means to be an organ donor. It's the gift of life. It's the absolute gift of life.
I think the group is really unique because it's a whole combination of people. You've got people that are recipients, people that are waiting, people that are donors, living donors as well.
Tell me a little bit about that. I mean, are there myths about donation?
Oh, the myth that I encounter the most from students is that, well, number one, that it's gross. I don't know that that's a myth, but that's a definite
it's not
impediment.
something that people really want to talk about, you know, dying, having a loved one die. I mean, the worst possible case for you, Jim.
Yeah, having another body part inside of you, that comes up. The other myth is that doctors would declare you brain dead before you might be, that there might still be hope that you would live, just so they can use your organs for somebody else, that there would be that kind of pressure involved, which is so untrue.
Now, you mentioned a living donor. What is that?
So a living donor would be somebody who would donate a kidney to someone or part of their liver. I think that's it, right?
Yeah,
that
those
you can
are the 2
donate.
main options, yeah.
And we have several people in the group that have been living donors.
Yeah.
And so, what transplants can be done at the University of Vermont Medical Center?
It's just the kidney and pancreas, right? Yeah. One more thing I'd like to add about what the DMV has done, which is good. This is, when I talk to students, this is your permit. In the state of Vermont, to get your license, you have to go through, well, you don't have to take driver ed, but you can't get your license until you're 18.
Right.
But now it's on your permit.
Lift that up a little higher, maybe.
Okay, yeah.
There you can see it. There's the donor heart.
Yeah, and there's a heart here that this person has decided that they wish to be a donor. Your parents have to be there to approve of that and agree to that. So.
And where can people find out more information about being a donor?
Well, you can go to donatelifevt.org. There's a lot of information there, and you also can sign up there. There's a lot of information on there. You could
our Facebook page.
We do have a Facebook page. We've gone pretty high tech. One thing, as far as awareness and whatnot, the last 4 years at the Burlington Marathon, we've had a team, and I'd like to show you our shirt.
Okay.
All right, this is our shirt. And we had a person that was a bilateral corneal recipient, a person that was a person waiting for a liver transplant. Dr. Harry Chen was a member of our team. A person that the organ procurement coordinator at the hospital, and then the name of our team for the last 4 years has been this.
Spare parts.
Because it's spare parts. You know, I have a bumper sticker on my truck that says, "Don't take, you can't take your organs to heaven. We need them here."
Yep.
And that's my philosophy. But it's a very personal decision.
Now, you mentioned that you hadn't had that conversation, Jim, with your daughter.
We had not.
How did you come to that decision to donate? Because I would imagine that's just the most horrible moment in a parent's life.
It was.
And to have to think about that must have been very, very difficult.
Well, the people at Fletcher Allen back then, it was a number of years ago, they were just remarkably compassionate, understanding, caring, social workers. She was in intensive care for 6 days with a very, very serious head injury. And they were just wonderful about it. There was a fellow named Pat Burrs. He was the organ procurement coordinator at the time. And he, we talked about what could be donated. And she, like I say, she donated corneas, her kidneys, her heart, and her liver for 6 people. And 2 people became sighted, and 4 people, their lives were saved. So it was a very difficult decision, but it was 6 days. We had some time to think about it, I guess you might say. We have 3 other children. They were involved in the decision, and but it was. Somebody, a student the other day at South Burlington High School said, was that a tough decision? And it was an incredibly tough decision because we knew we wouldn't see Andrea again.
Right.
But at the same time, we realized what it could do for 6 other people.
Mm-hmm. And so have you had any contact with Andrea's recipients?
It's a very emotional thing, apparently, the people that are recipients, and we have not. We've written a couple letters that goes through a clearinghouse, and that comes, but we have not. It's one of the empty parts, because we'd like to have talked about Andrea. Why
do you think that that's important? And why is it important for you?
Well, I feel a hole in my life not knowing my donor and not knowing her family and not knowing anything about her. And I've had such a sense of presence having had the heart with me. So I really feel this loss. And in a sense, Jim is kind of like my surrogate donor family, and being part of that group really filled quite a need. It's interesting how everyone responds to this, because I'm good friends with 2 other heart recipients, and they have completely different viewpoints on this. So I love the way that they've set this up, that there's no contact between the donor family and the recipient family unless both sides agree. And it's only what they're both comfortable with.
I've been to a couple of, I've joined a couple of recipients that have met their donor families, and it's one of the most emotional things and really joyful things I've ever been part of.
Really?
It was just incredible. It was, we went, a liver recipient friend of mine in Shelburne, my wife and I went with he and his wife and met the donor family down in Connecticut, and it was, I got goosebumps even talking about it, and it happened 7 years ago. It was just a remarkable, joyful thing. But it's a very personal thing for the recipients to meet, because they're alive because of a gift of someone else made. Yeah.
Well, it's such a gift.
Do you feel a little guilty?
Yes, that's what I was just going to say. It's such an enormous gift. You feel guilty because of that, because you don't feel you deserved it. Plus, you know you're walking around because someone else is dead. So it's like a survivor guilt kind of thing. So everybody responds very differently to that.
Our group is trying very hard to have a registry for living donors, because you can live with 1 kidney. We know many, many people, I'm sure, Laura, we know many people have just 1 kidney. You don't need 2 kidneys. So we're hoping that we can set up a living donor registry.
Is it just educating people about the issue and letting them know that, you know, you can give this amazing gift to somebody?
It's a truly amazing gift. People, well, if you're on dialysis, which we know many, many people on dialysis, it's every other day for the rest of your life. You're never going to get off dialysis unless you die, unfortunately, or you get a transplant. There's about over 100,000 people in the United States waiting, and 18 people die every day.
And mostly for kidneys.
Yeah,
mostly for kidneys. Kidneys are the worst.
And so tell me a little bit about some of your efforts that you've done and how things have changed when it comes to organ donation here, as far as the number of people who have signed up.
Oh, well, we went from 258 last January through the DMV, who got their computer system up and running. We were the only state in the country.
Finally.
Yeah, we're the only state in the country that did not have a DMV computer system that was up and running, and we've now over 172,000 Vermonters have signed up to be organ donors.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and if you go into there's 9 places around the state where you can get your license. We have a really nice picture of a person that says, "Do you have a heart?" And again, we're not trying to push people. It's a very personal decision. But we'd really like to have people talk to their loved ones about it. I do a survey after I do a presentation to the students in driver ed classes. I do a survey. The driver ed teacher the next day does a 6-question survey. And almost every student, one of the questions is, did you talk to a family member about Jim Carter's presentation, or if Laura's with me? And if they say yes, almost always they'll say they wish to be an organ donor. And again, I'm not pressing people to do it, but they hear Laura's story, or they hear somebody that was a living donor, or somebody that was a liver recipient come with me, and it's powerful. It's a powerful gift.
Is it just that people don't even really think about it? It's not kind of on their radar screen?
I think that's part of it. And when we presented in the park, at Battery Park, and Heritage Ford supported that, and we were there presenting, and people would walk by our table, and one person said to me, "Oh, well, that's kind of like tempting fate. If I sign up, then I'm going to die." You know, there's all these kind of myths out there.
Well, if you don't sign up, you're going to die anyway.
Exactly. So it's so funny.
And you can't take them with you.
Yeah, right. It's so funny.
Now, if people are interested in finding out more about this, what should they do?
Well, I think to go to Donate Life VT would be one thing. They certainly could call me or go to the Facebook.
Yeah.
Facebook,
Yeah.
I think. Why don't you explain how the Facebook works?
Well, I don't know.
Oh.
That's
I don't either.
Sally does the Facebook. She's a recent kidney recipient. She waited a long, long time for kidney and finally got one, and she's kind of taken on the media part of it.
Yeah.
One quick question, are you ever too old to be a donor?
Well, you can donate when you're born. If you weigh 8 pounds, you can donate heart valves. And then actually a 94-year-old man, the liver is probably the most resilient organ. And a 94-year-old man donated a liver, and it's a very successful transplant.
They used to cut off heart transplants at age 60. You couldn't receive a heart, but now they've extended that because they'll take older donors.
Good.
And then that tends to work far better.
Well, I want to thank you both for joining me and talking about this really important topic.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Judy.
Yeah.
That's our program for today. I'm Judy Simpson. We'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.